Hi, and welcome to the podcast that will help you learn English. And yes, we're sure about that. We love having fun, and we have a ton of fun making these podcasts just for you. Don't forget to share this podcast with your family and friends because that's all we do all day. My name's Rohit, and I'd like to welcome you to our fourth episode of English Before Going to Bed, brought to you by Go Getter English. You know that what we intend to do is precisely whatever, no matter what is in our hand to help you learn English, once and for all. There's no other thing we think about when planning our podcast. How do we help all of our wonderful listeners with their English? We won't just teach English in the most effective way. No, we'll help you overcome those barriers that you yourself have put up, and we'll also try to help you discover how you can learn English in a way that is fun, amusing, exciting, and overall good for you. Learning anything takes time and effort, and although this podcast might help you, it is only you, your time, and your effort, the ones you will have to invest to improve your English. So, if you'd let us, we'd love to show you how you can maximize your time while learning English. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to another episode of English Before Going to Bed, brought to you by Go Getter English. I'll be your host. My name is Rohit, and today I'd like to answer one of the most common questions I get asked as a teacher. I have had and still have a lot of students who are determined to learn English, whether it is for their job, for an exam, or just to know a bit more than their kids. I love these types of competitive parents. They are the best. So today I want to share a secret that will surely change your life forever. Although it might seem that I'm giving away the secret to immortality, it's far from a Matrix-like training in which you are plugged into a computer and magically learn English. No, it's nothing like that at all. Let me start by reviewing those fundamental aspects of learning English that you all are familiar with. I'm pretty sure about that. The reason I'm going over these is because it's important to see how these aspects interact and help you learn. Not just anything, but practically everything. As you all know, since we were kids, all of our teachers of English have continuously told us that there are 4 basic skills that make up a language. And you know them well too. And they are reading, speaking, listening, and writing. In fact, there's an organization in Europe that has been able to divide these skills and the sub-skills, and they have been able to classify them into levels of English. I'm sure you're very familiar with this categorization, and you may have heard of, the A1, A2, B1, C1, C2, and so on. You listening right now may even know which level you're currently in. Well, these levels are defined by averaging out the skills and the language knowledge. In any case, this is getting too technical. Today, I want to tell you the secret of how you can improve your overall level of English by just doing one thing. If you do this just the way we've laid it out, I guarantee you will improve your English level dramatically. You must be thinking that now comes the part in which I tell you that you have to pay a lot of money to learn English because you think you have to travel abroad to an English-speaking country, take super expensive lessons, and pay for all the extra costs. Well, let me tell you that all you'll need, believe me, is time and effort. And so, let me tell you that the key to your English development is, Steve Jobs, and Barack Obama, and George Clooney, and many others. They all can help you improve your English. Easy, right? Well, let me first tell you what you think happens when you listen to any of these people talking, or anyone talking in English. The first thing you realize when you listen to someone talk is your own level of English. Let me explain. When you listen to someone, especially if you're not looking at them, for example, during a telephone conversation, you become aware very specifically of what you can understand and what you can't. It's like a level test of your English in real life. So, you can quickly grade your own understanding in a percentage. You could say that you understood 20, 40, 60, or even maybe 80% of the conversation, right? This is the first thing you panic about. Then, You think about the things like the accent, the speed, the empathy of the speaker, and that's when you start to fear for your own life. You know exactly where you're at with this kind of level tests. Now, the only way to overcome these issues is by first accepting that most of the times someone talks in English, or you listen to someone talking in English, you're not going to understand each and every word. You need to know that. One of the things my students continuously tell me is, "Teacher, I got lost in one word and I couldn't continue listening." Well, this is very normal. Our brain is so trained to listen and understand each and every word that it's very easy to lose interest once you miss that one word you couldn't understand. The difficult thing is getting back on track. That's precisely what we should train. It's like running a race with hurdles. You can't just stop at every hurdle. You need to keep moving on, just like those athletes do. So, how do I train, and how are Steve Jobs and Chandler Bing going to help me? Remember, there's no magic potion to learn anything. Time and effort is all you need. The first thing you need to do is at least have half an hour free. Totally free. No distractions, no interruptions, nothing. The more focused you are, the better the exercise will go. The next thing you need to do is have a smartphone, a computer, or a tablet ready. The third and last thing you need to have is a pen and a notebook. This technique that I'm going to talk to you about is called transcription. Yes, the exercise in which you write everything you hear. Let me tell you why this technique works. It may seem quite old-fashioned, but believe me that gradually you will see how not only your comprehension skills improve, but also everything else. In basic form, the transcription technique has just 2 steps. You listen to a recording in English and write down the recording as you listen. And then you replay the recording word for word until you can transcribe each and every word. Do this for around 30 minutes, no more. And you can use any type of audio or video material. You know that YouTube is great for this. Once you have transcribed around 3 paragraphs, you can then record yourself speaking the text that you've written down. You then repeat these 2 steps until you've mastered that piece of text. You don't need to memorize it or anything. Just read it with not much hesitation. This creates a full skill circle, which goes from listening to writing, then back to reading, speaking, and then again listening. During the first step, listening and transcribing, I recommend that you listen to a recording in short segments, pausing and repeating the recording regularly to type or write what you hear. Really, even though you think it's boring and that you're not learning anything, you in fact are. Trust me, just do it. Ideally, it would be great if you could do it for a month, every day. But let's take baby steps this time, and I'll be more than happy if you could just do it once. You need to complete the full circle. Listen, transcribe, read, and speak. Another thing that you should do, this is why it is important that you can choose a good audio or video, is that once you've got your transcript on paper, you need to check that it's correct before you record yourself reading it aloud. And you can usually check that with the original transcript of your audio or video. YouTube doesn't have this feature, but you can always check the audio with the subtitles on. Another great source that provides transcript is TED. Their website is just marvelous. I'm sure you already know that. You can in fact carry out this exercise, with this particular podcast, with this very own podcast, and try to transcribe it, and then check it on our website. I'll wish you good luck for that. Some of my students who have become really proficient in their English have actually practiced this technique hundreds of times, and they have improved their English at least tenfold in very little time. A student of mine who back then was around 12 years old loved music a lot, and she wrote down the lyrics to all of her favorite songs. On average, it would take her around 45 minutes to write down one song. Those were 45 minutes that she was just practicing English on her own, every day. It's just like going to the gym. If you do an exercise correctly for a period of time, you will surely develop some useful skills. And honestly, I have to tell you the real reason why I trust this technique so much. For the past few years, I've been following some YouTubers. Most of them aren't what I would say worth my time. But on the other hand, there are some others that actually make a difference with every word they say. And this is where one of my internet idols comes in. And I must say, he's so much more than just marvelous. Well, back to the story. A few months back, a co-worker of mine sent me a little video in which some kid was breaking down what the education system in Spain looked like. His interpretation of the fact was very similar to mine and was very well articulated. And it was so well done that I instantly knew that this guy was a different kind of a YouTuber. His name? Well, his name is Jaime Altozano. He's a reputable musician and an incredible and knowledgeable speaker. I couldn't help but to follow him and watch his vast collection of videos, most of them focused on the ins and outs of music. Something that I'm also very passionate about. Someday we'll have a wonderful podcast about music. After watching several videos of his, I noticed something very funny. I realized that Jaime was using words in English in most of his videos, but he wasn't using these English words randomly. He was actually using very native sounding words in very accurate moments. So I needed to know how he actually reached that level. After teaching English for a very long time, you more or less know where everybody's, come from, or, the typical love-hate relation they have with English. And as I was determined to find out Jaime's story, so I did what any person my age would do. I wrote him an email. In that email, I wrote down all my questions and my theories, and all he had to do was just choose the one that matched his story. I wasn't very hopeful for him answering back, but you know what? I still expected, his reply. Long story short, Mr. Jaime Altozano replied, and he replied with one of the most beautiful emails I have ever received. In that email, this master of communication detailed how he had arrived to that level of English. But first, he thanked me and felt very surprised that anyone had even noticed his level of English through his videos. Anyways, he said that his passion while growing up was watching TV series. All of them. All. He was obsessively watching TV series. He spent hours and hours watching series in Spanish. But one day he ran out of TV series to watch. So he started watching series in English. Because, the dubbing in Spanish wasn't yet available. The process he set up was as follows. He first watched the episode in English and was able to understand 20% of the episode. He then watched it again and was able to understand a bit more, let's say 40%. Then once again, and his comprehension started growing to 60%. And then he continued watching the episode until he understood 100% of it. But not only did he listen to series over and over again, he listened to YouTubers and transcribed what they said. He listened to songs he liked and transcribed every word. And this gave him a really vast vocabulary and good knowledge of how grammar stuck together and almost automatized it. When the day came, he was able to pass his Cambridge proficiency exam with just a bit of preparation. So, Jaime Altozano actually learned English by doing what he loved the most. So let me tell you that you can enjoy learning English doing what you like. And that's really the key. Your passion enables you to learn anything you want. I really hope that my close and lifelong friend, what am I saying? I hope my bro, Jaime Altozano, doesn't mind me mentioning him in this podcast. Now that we are so close, I'm sure he doesn't mind. So please, try this technique for a few days. Choose a video or an audio and write it down. Write down a few paragraphs. Then check if what you've written is correct. If not correct, then you try to fix it. And then record it. And listen to it again. Really, if you do this for 30 minutes every day, I guarantee you that you will gradually become great in English. Well, thank you so much for listening. Really, thanks everyone and the incredible support that we've been getting these past few weeks. It's great to be here every week, and we honestly hope we are helping you in your English. The whole Go Getter team says see ya and catch you in your next podcast. And don't forget, be a go getter.